How Ozempic changed food forever. Let's run it.
Hello, my name is Zachary Smickle, and I'd like to show you something. Smoothie King has a GLP-1 support menu. Yes,
Dude, GLP-1s, I see so many ads with GLP-1s.
that is real, not satire, not a cool edit.
But you know what's crazy? When I was doing TikTok shop, as they should be, but they were so strict about promoting anything weight loss or even like alluding to the fact that something can make you lose weight. So it's crazy. It's just like now all of a sudden, like overnight, I feel like all these companies are like, oh yeah, we're promoting weight loss products.
By the old Zaxter, a national chain looked at the rise in Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, and said, cool, let's redesign our menu. And guess what? They're not alone. McDonald's announced they're testing new menu items to appeal to users of GLP-1 products. Factor, the meal delivery kit service, now has GLP-1 specific plans. Nestle launched an entire frozen meal line built around supporting people on the drugs. And Walmart, the largest grocery retailer in the country, literally reported to investors that GLP-1 users were buying miserably less food in their stores. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because we are entering the Ozempic economy, a time where brands are shifting their marketing, menus, and even business models, not because they care, but because they have to. Roughly 1 in 8 adults are currently using GLP-1 drugs for weight loss.
I'm glad there's a wave of adults getting healthy and, you know, wanting to lose weight. I don't know what it is. I just have a difficult time trusting this, the GLP-1s, the Ozempic, like all that stuff, like the big push on that. I'm saying this without like doing research on any of this shit. It just seems too good to be true, and it just seems like all this shit just popped up overnight, and there's just something odd to me about it.
Millions of Americans eating less food. And here's the thing, a huge part of the food industry is built on volume. More snacking, bigger portion sizes, you know, buy 3 bags of chips, get 2 free. GLP-1 drugs mess with all of that. And
yeah, those types of ads.
It is causing brands to panic and adapt. The adapting part sounds good in theory, right? We can all agree if big food wants to make their products healthier, that is generally a good thing. But are they actually doing that? Or just
like Cheerios or whatever brand saying, oh yeah, we're heart healthy. It's like, bro, it's dog shit. What do you mean heart healthy?
Slapping a fancy logo on a box of cereal and calling it a day. Well, that's one of the many things we're digging into today. We're going to follow the money, expose the marketing, and figure out who in this space is actually trying and who's just hoping you don't.
Yeah, who's profiting off of this?
Flip the box around. All that plus Oprah, a few lawsuits waiting to happen, and something even called fiber maxing. Let's get into it. The year was 1984. Apple launched the first Macintosh computer. Ronald Reagan won his second term, and scientists discovered
1984, the first Apple computer came out.
A hormone in the human gut called GLP-1. GLP-1 lowers blood sugar and essentially tells your brain you're full. Cool discovery in 1984, but there was a problem. In your body, it breaks down in just about 2 minutes. Too fast to actually be useful in medicine. Then, in 1992, an endocrinologist named John Ang was studying Gila monster venom. Yes, venom from the Gila monster, which, as we all know, is the only venomous lizard in North America. Obviously. But anyways, John found something wild. The lizard produced a hormone almost identical to human GLP-1, except it stuck around for hours. It was a massive discovery. Scientists took that, recreated it in a lab, and eventually built a twice-daily injection. Years later, Novo Nordisk then redefined it into a once-weekly shot, and by 2017, the FDA approved it under the name Ozempic. When Ozempic came out, it was not a weight loss drug. It was approved specifically to treat type 2 diabetes. But as more people started using it, patients were losing significant amounts of weight as a side effect. And so doctors started prescribing it off-label. Off-label means using an FDA-approved medication for a purpose the FDA hasn't specifically approved it for. It's not illegal, doctors actually do it all the time, but because insurance companies only cover approved use, getting something like Ozempic for weight loss meant paying out of pocket, which is why the real floodgates opened in 2021 when the FDA approved Wegovy. This was essentially the same medication, but at a higher dose, specifically designed
what are the side effects? I don't know. It just seems too good to be true, man.
And marketed for chronic weight management. This was the green light the world was waiting for, and it turned a medical discovery into a cultural phenomenon overnight. For a while, it felt like every celebrity on the red carpet had suddenly undergone a transformation, but nobody wanted to say the word Ozempic yet. It was the industry's worst kept secret. Chelsea Handler admitted she was on it without—
Yeah, because if it's so good. Why is it like this weird thing to say like, oh, I'm on Ozempic, I'm on this, I'm on that?
Even realizing what it was, because apparently her doctor just handed it to her like it was a vitamin. Amy Schumer was one of the few people who actually called out the culture of secrecy. And then there was the Oprah situation. Yeah, that's right. Oprah situation. Nobody illustrates the absolute chaos of this transition better than Oprah Winfrey. For decades, Oprah was the face of the traditional weight loss industry, specifically through her massive partnership with Weight Watchers. She owned 10% of the company and sat on their board, basically acting as the high priestess of counting points. But in 2023, Weight Watchers bought a telehealth company called Sequence, so they could start prescribing these drugs themselves. Oprah stepped down from the board and donated her shares to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. It was basically a complete surrender of the old way of doing things. This whole thing was bizarre, but perfectly sets the stage for where we are today in the Ozempic economy story. We're watching massive brands go through a full-blown identity crisis because the world they spent decades building just—
So like before, in the 90s, the 80s, whatever, you could drink a Coke, you can have bread, and there was like only a few ingredients. And they start putting all this shit in there. Bread has like 40 ingredients when if you make it at home, it's only 4. So it's like, why now are these companies, like, I'm glad, you know, maybe some of these companies are getting rid of preservatives and whatever, making it healthy, but like, why now? Why do you give a fuck about it now? When clearly you didn't before. Because why have 40 different fucking ingredients in bread to make it cheaper? And now you're like, oh, we're gonna make shit better. Why? Like, why all of a sudden? Why now? And it's at the same time, all these companies are like, oh, Ozempic, GLP-1s, all this shit. Like, it's unsettling to me.
The irony is that for some, this desperate pivot is actually backfiring. Weight Watchers tried to shed its skin and become a pharmaceutical middleman, and the market responded by sending their stock price off a cliff. But this is the new reality. Brands have to account for cultural changes. GLP-1 is here. There's a rise of people losing weight and eating less. And of course, a boatload of daily grinders focusing on fitness and wellness. So people are caring more about their bodies and what they consume because of this new health optimization era. I talked about this in detail in my last video. Wellness is 100% in. People are increasingly focusing on health for a multitude of reasons, and GLP-1 is the icing on the cake. Brands must adapt. The issue is how they're doing that and whether they're doing that at all. And that's nowhere more prevalent than with fast food brands. Let's play a little game. Imagine for a second you were the CEO of a fast food company. You were sitting in your big leather chair, staring at a spreadsheet that shows your customers are suddenly buying way less food because they're on a drug that makes them physically repulsed by grease. What do? Do you go with option A and spend billions of dollars to fundamentally—
Like McDonald's used to use beef tallow to fry and cook their shit in. Now they use canola oil, I'm assuming. I understand beef tallow is more expensive, but it's like, bro, if you're McDonald's, you can afford it.
Overhaul your entire global supply chain so you could start selling actual nutrient-dense, healthy food? Or do you go with option B and just rebrand your old products to appear healthy so you can keep those profit margins nice and fat? Well, if you answered A, you'd be classified as a terrible CEO and would probably be fired. In the Ozempic economy, survival is rarely about making a better product. It's often about being better at marketing. And one of the easiest things to market in this economy is protein. Protein signals discipline, fitness, optimization, and all the stuff modern health culture loves. But what you might not know is people on GLP-1s are constantly told to prioritize protein, partially because it helps with fullness, and partially because when you lose weight quickly, you also risk losing muscle. And food brands figured that out fast. For years, dining at Mickey D's was considered unhealthy, but as of March 20th, eating their chicken strips is comparable to eating protein bars, at least according to
There's actually 40 grams of protein between all these.
McDonald's Twitter. Now, don't get me wrong, 40 grams of protein at 460 calories is reasonable, especially because, you know, it's just chicken. But 23 grams of fat with 1400 milligrams of sodium is not. McDonald's really wants to sell this high protein.
Yeah, and on top, like I said, they fry their shit in canola oil, probably. Terrible for you. And it just inflames the shit out of you.
Idea to you. So much so, they've partnered with influencers to showcase how much protein their products have. This influencer in particular has been incredibly forward about her GLP-1 use. And guess what? McDonald's saw that and sponsored her to talk about their high protein options. And look, I want to be extra direct here. I'm not criticizing Stefania for being open about her diet or her weight loss journey. My issue is not with her. What I am criticizing is the fact that McDonald's saw a wellness creator with a GLP-1 audience and thought, perfect, let's use that to—
A fucking fitness influencer promoting McDonald's. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Yeah, you're gonna get a bag. Your audience to be like, oh, well, let me go eat McDonald's. I'm on my fitness journey. Like, what the fuck? That's so shitty to me.
When someone builds a platform around transforming their health through diet and exercise and then takes a McDonald's sponsorship, the irony is worth pointing out. Moreover, I think it's strange that wellness and fitness creators are partnering with fast food brands, period, because a lot of the people turning to wellness content for motivation have a complicated relationship with fast food. And while some people can work toward moderation, some can't. Research shows that people who regularly consume fast food have a 20 to 129% increased risk of obesity compared to non-consumers. That is not a small number. So yeah, this is all very weird, and I believe it's fair to point out. So while McDonald's doesn't have a dedicated GLP-1 menu, it's not a coincidence that their CEO said they were paying attention to GLP-1 users and then suddenly started marketing how much protein is in their food through influencers, tweets, and blog articles. And McDonald's is far from the only one doing this. Starbucks has done something similar when they launched their protein menu, putting a combo of whey protein and 2% milk into their coffee and matcha. And just like McDonald's, they partnered with a wave of influencers to sell you on these protein-packed products. When these launched, social media was flooded with photos and videos reviewing these
That's fucking gross. I get down with Starbucks, but whatever the fuck this is, not about it.
Social media was flooded with photos and videos reviewing these protein lattes, and they all looked pretty gross. I can't help but wonder if Starbucks wanted to start sponsoring people so that those videos would show up versus the other videos. But regardless, at least these lattes are healthy, right? Well, not really. If you order any of the
I know going to Starbucks, if I go to McDonald's, like, I know it's not healthy. I would never in a million fucking years take a brand deal and be like, hey guys, go to this place. It's really healthy. When I damn know it's not. You're fucking lying to your audience. That's so shitty to me.
Regular non-sugar-free drinks, it's pretty crazy. One grande caramel protein latte clocks in at a whopping 37 grams of added sugar. And you know, we added sugar, especially for something that's being marketed as healthy. And then of course we have Subway, a brand that has spent the last decade trying to outrun its own complicated history with weight loss spokespeople. Well, guess what? They're jumping headfirst into the Ozempic economy too. They recently launched something called Protein Pockets. If you've spent any time on foodie TikTok, you probably have seen influencers holding these up like they're some kind of holy relic of protein.
Yeah, and that fucking that fucking tortilla is probably like 500 calories.
And fitness. These creators talk about them as if Subway just discovered the concept of amino acids for the first time. While their protein pockets are not necessarily unhealthy, and they're certainly healthier than a lot of other fast food items, the marketing is just marketing. For example, their regular rotisserie style chicken 6-inch sub actually has fewer calories, half the fat, and about the same amount of protein as their new Baja Chicken protein pocket. There really is no significant difference between ordering certain regular menu items and these new protein pockets. And those are just a few light examples. Some brands are way more forward about what they're doing here and who they're trying to target. In December 2025, Shake Shack introduced its new Good Fit menu, and unlike Starbucks or Subway, they did not dance around GLP-1 choices. But here's the funny part. The Good Fit menu is not really some revolutionary new line of food. They took their same burgers and chicken sandwiches and just swapped buns for lettuce wraps, highlighted the protein numbers, and repackaged the whole thing to sell to you. Now, to be fair, some of these swaps probably are better for certain people. Cutting carbs, shrinking portions, and making it easier to find higher protein options is not inherently a bad thing, but it is not exactly innovation. Smoothie King is probably the best example of all of this. In October 2024, the company launched an actual GLP support menu. They called themselves the first national quick service chain to introduce a menu specifically
that's gonna have 70 grams of sugar,
created to assist millions of Americans taking prescription GLP-1 drugs. The smoothies were marketed around the exact language you would expect. High protein, rich in fiber, nutrient dense, all the buzzwords, all the hits. That sounds amazing. Let's take a look at these special GLP-1 smoothies and compare them to their counterparts. Here we have the Gladiator GLP-1 vanilla smoothie, and here we have the regular Gladiator vanilla
so literally the exact same. Like, unless I'm missing something, there's not a singular difference, bro.
Smoothie. Oh, sorry, something isn't working here. Let's try it again. I said, here is the GLP-1 version.
So I'm confused. What's the difference then? Why did they market GLP-1 friendly thing when it's the exact same?
And here's the regular. Oh my God.
Fucking greedy ass corporations, bro. What the fuck?
God. They're the same thing. Well, surely this can't be. Well, what about the Keto Champ GLP-1 chocolate versus the regular Keto Champ chocolate?
How did they get away with doing that? I mean, that's just straight up false advertising.
Oh my God. It's the same thing again. Smoothie King, what are you doing? Most of the GLP-1 smoothies are no different than the regular smoothies on the menu. There are no secret ingredients hidden in the blender. The recipe and the base are the same. When I looked this up, other people complained about this, and the only apparent difference I could find for these smoothies is that the normal versions lets you add things like peanut butter or bananas, while the GLP-1 versions guide you towards other options. But when you go to order these smoothies on their website, they're presented exactly the same. You can do that for either smoothie. So it's essentially the exact same product, but with different marketing. So do you notice the pattern here? The GOP-friendly fast food revolution is, in many cases, not about brands suddenly caring about your health. It's just them advertising their products differently. Take away some buns, highlight the protein amount, add some fiber, and suddenly your old product gets to cosplay as part of a medical lifestyle plan. What a
Like I said, when I was doing TikTok, even if I said something remotely close to like, oh, it'll make you less bloated, bro, they'd fucking ban my account, bro. And then the fucking Smoothie King can be like, this is GLP-1 friendly, that helps you lose weight. We're gonna make this new smoothie, but then it's the exact same. How do you get away with that?
hilarious and annoying world we live in. But listen, we know most fast food brands usually don't care about our health or wellness. But what about household food items? Well, if you think the drive-thru is getting weird, you should see what is happening in grocery store aisles. A recent Cornell University study found that within the first 6 months of starting a GLP-1 medication, households reduced their grocery spending by an average of 5.3%. Among higher income households, the drop was even steeper, at more than 8%. And the biggest casualties? Savory snacks, sweets, cookies, and baked goods.
Hey, I can get down on a Cinnamon Toast Crunch though. Oof, oof. I don't care what's in it. Fucking delicious.
Down nearly 10%. So just like fast food, these brands are taking a hit. And what exactly are they doing? Well, shoving protein down our throats. There's protein pop.
It's like going to like Trader Joe's versus like Walmart. You're paying like $10 extra for the same exact product. It's just a different label on it, but it's the exact same thing.
Pasta, protein chips, protein Snickers bars, protein cereal, protein pancakes, and even protein infused water. But I really want to highlight this one specific example just because of how ridiculous it is. Kellanova, the company you probably know better as Kellogg's, the snack giant behind Pringles, Cheez-Its, and Pop-Tarts, makes exactly the kind of ultra-processed snacks health-conscious consumers are cutting first. So what was their answer to the GLP-1 era? Protein Pop-Tarts. Available in flavors like Slam and Strawberry and Boost in Brown Sugar Cinnamon, which are real product names that an adult signed off on. They are marketing these as a bold innovation for people looking for a protein boost on the go. I mean, look at how large the word protein is labeled on the box. Surely this must be a healthy snack. Well,
it's the problem because like it works. All this marketing works. As much as I say this is so stupid, it works, and that's why they keep doing it. If motherfuckers didn't buy it, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't lie. But people believe it.
Actual math here is incredible. A serving of these new protein-boosted Pop-Tarts, which is 2 pastries, comes out to 380 calories, only 10 grams of protein, and 30 grams of sugar. Not only is this an extremely high amount of sugar, but per calorie, that's an awfully low amount of protein. For reference, a 100-gram chicken breast contains 165 calories and 31 grams of protein, meaning you need to consume over 1,100 calories or 6 whole Pop-Tarts to get the same amount of protein as 100 grams of chicken breast. What a joke. But what I think is really funny about all of this is just how out of touch it feels. Because nutritious, protein-dense pastries do actually exist. There are numerous brands that sell them, and Pop-Tart could easily compete with them if they tried. But they didn't. They took the regular version, which is heavily marketed towards children, and just added a splash of protein. So I think it's safe to say protein Pop-Tarts were not made for health-focused adults. But they were not really made for kids either, because kids eating Pop-Tarts do not care about protein, and
I don't like Pop-Tarts. Hot take, not a fan.
Parents who
it's one of those things like you haven't had in 6 months, you're like, damn, this sounds good. And then you have it and you're like, ugh, this is gross.
Actually monitor their kids' diet are probably not buying Pop-Tarts in the first place. So really, who exactly is this for? What's crazy about this bizarre protein advertising strategy is that the FDA does not regulate how brands use the word protein in their marketing. Any brand can do it, and the exact same thing is true for GLP-1 friendly. There is no regulated or medically defined standard for what the term actually means on a package. A brand can define it however they want. Take Nestle, who released a whole new line of GLP-1 friendly frozen.
I really hope they crack down on that.
meals called Vital Pursuit. The packaging has this massive V that aggressively highlights the protein amount and a big GLP-1 friendly label right on the front. Then there is Conagra, who went through over 24 existing healthy choice meals, changed absolutely nothing about the recipes, and just started labeling them as GLP-1 friendly. Two completely different levels of effort, same label, no rules. When a term means everything, it means nothing. And to me, as a consumer, that's generally concerning. Because where does it end? If food brands can advertise essentially however they want, how can we trust anything at face value? Honestly, not to sound insane, but
Don't. Never trust anything at face value.
I don't think we can, and nothing proves that more than what is happening right now with fiber. The CEO of PepsiCo recently declared that fiber will be the next protein, and if you look at the numbers, he is very likely right. 64% of Americans are now intentionally trying to add more fiber to their daily routine. Whole Foods named fiber one of the top food trends for 2026, search interest for gut health has skyrocketed, and the trend has even birthed something called fiber maxing, where people are essentially gamifying their digestion for fiber gains. But one of these surprising reasons fiber is exploding right now, GLP-1. One of the most common and unglamorous side effects of GLP-1 drugs is constipation. So no matter how you slice it, fiber matters for everyone. There's a reason that dietitians and doctors recommend it so much. The issue is that brands know it matters, and they're absolutely milking that. Poppy is probably the clearest example of how messy this has all become. In 2024, a woman sued the company, claiming Poppy was overstating its health benefits and misrepresenting the functional value of the fiber in
Yeah, I don't know how there's not way more lawsuits to these companies.
the soda. Celebrities were drinking it, influencers were pushing it, the branding was slick, the cans were colorful, and the message was everywhere. Drink this and your gut will thank you. But the fiber inside? Well, it's added or isolated fiber. This type of fiber can make the fiber count higher on nutrition labels, but do not always provide the same benefits as fiber found in whole foods like fruits or vegetables. Poppy later agreed to an almost $9 million settlement while denying wrongdoing. The best part of the story though, while the lawsuit was still very much a thing, PepsiCo looked at Poppy, looked at the settlement, looked at the problematic isolated fiber, and wrote a check for almost $2 billion. Yeah, that's right, Pepsi acquired Poppy, not because the product matters, but because the brand does. Welcome to the Ozempic economy. And I think this really highlights what we are all dealing with here. This is not really a story about Ozempic at all. It is a story about what happens when consumer behavior changes and corporations have no clue what to do about it. GLP-1 use is the tip of the iceberg, and protein Pop-Tarts are not going to save anyone. The industry's response has almost been universally the same. Not to make better food, not to actually invest in nutrition, but to find the fastest, cheapest, most marketable solution possible, which usually just means slapping a new label on an old product and hoping nobody looks too closely. And that is the part that generally makes me angry.
Literally all of Trader Joe's.
Because this is a calculated bet. Brands are spending enormous amounts of money on advertising, on influencers, on GLP-1 menus and protein branding and fiber sodas because they have done the research and concluded that most people will not look any closer. They're banking on you being lazy. And for a lot of people, that bet is going to pay off. So I guess if there's one thing I will leave you with, it's this. Don't be afraid to turn the box around, not because you need to optimize every meal or obsess over every macro, but because the front of almost every product in the Ozempic economy was written by a marketing team, not a dietitian.
I think the new wave of getting healthy is good. I just don't like how these greedy ass corporations are taking advantage of that, not actually making their products healthier, just slapping a new label on it and pretending like it is and taking advantage of people. No dietitians that are checking this shit. It's just fucking people in marketing who want to up the fucking sales because they see that the GLP-1s, the Ozempic, the health wave is going back up. Overall, though, I understand weight loss isn't easy, man, but I don't know. I don't trust these fucking GLP-1s, these Ozempic, any of these marketing that these companies are doing, and these fucking shitty ass influencers who are pretending like going to McDonald's is okay. But anyways, have a good day. If you like, subscribe, leave a comment, do the thing. Bye.
Got these voices in my head.